Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to read a little bit of the one and only Ivan. I have Sunny and Eddie here as the live audience. And I'm going to read. Read. All right. So we are up to babies. This section of the book is called Babies. All right. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Mac brought me, a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo, to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her rear was puffy with padding. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. So Mum wouldn't have been very happy that the baby gorilla was squeezing her baby. Got to be very careful with babies. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is all furry. Human babies are an ugly lot, but their eyes are like our babies' eyes, too big for their faces and for the world. The next section is called, beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. So it sounds like Mac and Helen's marriage ended and Helen moved out. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub, cool green cocoons. Mac's bed was like mine. It was flat, hot, and without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound coming deep inside his belly. So Mac's snoring reminded Ivan of when he slept in the jungle with his gorilla daddy. The next section is called My Place. Mac grew sullen. I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be, too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you are not human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't have been? It had no furniture to break, no glass to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tyre swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow, I didn't realise I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, watch reruns on TV. But how many days I forget what I'm supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. And the next section is called 9,876 days. That means Ivan has been in his cage for something like 27 years. He calls his cage the domain. It's like a big glass box. And that's where people come to see him in the mall, in the shopping centre. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring. But my mind is still racing for perhaps the first time ever I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning and an endless middle. I've counted all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not a particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of my magic markers Julia gave me. I make an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this, and it's just a bunch of X's, and he's put them in groups of 5. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. Can you guys see all the X's? Can you see them, Eddie and Sunday? Look at all the X's that Ivan would have made since.
Oh my God.
Yeah. See that? That's all the days he's been in captivity. And so on until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. That's a long time to be stuck in a cage, isn't it? The next section is called A Visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He weaves as he walks. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He's staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan. He presses his forehead against the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. The next section is called A New Beginning. I don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac says he's anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it's time for a new beginning. All afternoon and into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with rope so she cannot run. A heavy chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. Remember, Snickers is the little chihuahua that jumps on top of the elephant. When Ruby obeys, Mac gives her a cube of sugar or a bit of dried apple. When she doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Julia sits on a bench and watches them. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under Not Tag. It's raining outside, and Bob does not like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her trunk drooping. Endlessly they circle the ring. Sometimes Mac slaps her flank with his hand. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to a stop. Mac pulls the chain hard, but Ruby refuses to move. Come on, Ruby, Mac is almost pleading. What's your problem? She's exhausted, I tell myself. That's the problem. Mac groans. Idiot elephant. Idiot human, Bob mutters. Walk, Ruby, I say, although I know she's too far away to hear me. Do what he says. Walk, Mac commands. Now. Ruby doesn't walk. She plops her rump on the sawdust floor. I think maybe she's tired, Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. Yeah, I know. We're all tired. He pushes Ruby with the heel of his boot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court where he's wiping off tables. "Mac," he yells, "maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up." Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. He pulls harder and falls to his knees. "That does it," Mac says. He brushes the sawdust off his jeans. "I am through playing around." Mac stomps off to his office. When he returns, he is carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on its end is almost beautiful, like a sliver of the moon. It's a claw stick. Now, remember, claw sticks is like a knife, and they can pierce the elephant's tough skin. And it hurts. If Mac hits Ruby with that, it's going to really hurt her. Mac pokes Ruby with the sharp point. Not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants her to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is a grey, unmoving boulder. She closes her eyes, and for a moment I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. "I'm warning you," Mac says. He breathes out. He stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. "Fine," Mac says. "You want to play it that way?" He draws back the claw stick. "No!" Julia cries. "I'm not going to hurt her," Mac says. "I just want to get her attention." Bob snarls. Mac swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. "See why you don't want to mess with me?" Mac says. He draws back the claw stick again. "Now, move!" Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk towards Mac. She makes a noise that sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It's the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see exactly where she strikes him. Somewhere below his stomach, I think. And I know he must be uncomfortable because Mac drops the claw stick and falls down on the ground and curls into a ball and howls like a baby. Oh, Ruby's hit Mac really hard. "Direct hit," Bob says. Uh-oh. Good on Ruby, huh? She got her own back that time. The next section is called Poor Mac. He's on the floor crying like a baby because Ruby really hurt him. Mac groans. He stumbles to his feet and hobbles off towards his office. Ruby watches him leave. I can't read her expression. Is she afraid? Relieved? Proud? When Mac is gone, George and Julia lead Ruby from the ring. "It's okay, baby, it's okay," Julia says, stroking Ruby's head. They settle Ruby into her domain and make sure she has fresh water and food. Before long, Ruby's dozing. "Dad," Julia asks as George locks Ruby's iron door, "do you think Mac would ever hurt Ruby?" "I don't think so, Jules," George says. "At least, I hope not." "Maybe we could call someone." George scratches his chin. "I wish I could help Ruby, but I wouldn't know how. I mean, who would I call? The elephant cops? Besides," George looks down, "I need this job, Jules. We need this job. Your mum, the doctor's bills." He kisses the top of Julia's head. "Back to work, you and me both." Julia sighs and reaches for her backpack. She removes a piece of paper, a bottle of water, and a small metal box. "Homework first," George says, wagging a finger. "Then you can paint." "It's for art class," Julia explains. "We're doing watercolours. I'm going to paint Ruby." George smiles. "All right then, just don't forget your spelling." Oh, good, she's doing spelling. "Dad," Julia asks, "did you see Mac's face when Ruby hit him?" George nods. "Yes," he says solemnly. "I did." He shakes his head. "Poor Mac. He turns away, and then only do I then hear him laughing. So Ruby got Mac a good one. She really hurt him. Oh, but it might not be a good thing for Ruby because Mac will not be impressed that Ruby's hit him. I guess we'll see what happens next. Thanks, live audience, for coming. We've read enough for today. I hope you're enjoying the book so far, guys.
I bet the spelling must be easy.
Do you reckon it'll be easy?
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. Bye, guys.